diggers appear, and ain't no wannabes here with some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked how they like before they get on the mic. To my left, we got the mighty Mur Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host, Matt Evan Wallace, on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make your writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
Coming to you live after long journey and arduous travel from the tunnel connecting the interstate to Jeff Goldblum's small estate off the highway. It is the Ditch Diggers with Mur Lafferty and Matt Wallace. Hi, Matt. It's been a long trip.
You put a long tail on that kite.
I did.
You did. Did you have the interstate thing in mind, or was it that you got to the part where you would have said Morgan Freeman's estate and you didn't want to mention Morgan Freeman?
Man, you know me so well. Yeah, it's second one.
Yeah, I could hear it. Yeah,
I can start over.
No, I actually would like to leave that in there and just kind of address the elephant in the room, which is normally we come to you live from a part of Morgan Freeman's elaborate fictitious estate, and due to just a wild amount of allegations that have come out against him, we no longer feel comfortable promoting Morgan Freeman on the show. So,
or even
because we believe
being
women
associated
here at Ditch
with
Diggers. Yeah, or we being associated with him, obviously, because we believe women here at Ditch Diggers. It's just a little thing. It's a little thing we do.
Yeah,
that we're proud of. So we were like, what are we going to do? And so we tunneled from Morgan Freeman's estate to the interstate. I like the idea that we drove on the interstate to a specific point, and then instead of just turning off and driving to the new place, we tunneled from the interstate.
Of course we did. Goldblum would have seen us coming if we had driven there.
Goldblum sees everything.
Yeah, except for underground. It's like Zeus. It's like he can't see Hades' domain, which is Jodie Foster's. We're going to attempt to get to Jeff Goldblum's estate, and we're going to land in Jodie Foster's underground lair. I've decided this.
Because we took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Yes.
Because you know what you're getting with Jeff Goldblum and Jodie Foster. So, for now, I mean, who the hell
I hope
knows?
so, man. I thought we knew what we were getting with Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman, yeah, he did, but... So that's the thing. So going forward, we're gonna, it happens sometime. It's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
For being a freelance writer, honestly, because things change. I mean, circumstances change rapidly in this business, and you find yourself looking for a new home often in this trade.
Yeah.
So we've set out in the unknown, and that's okay.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why we're addressing this like a month after the allegations came up, well, we record ahead of time, and we recorded the last two episodes, and then I sat on editing them, and then Matt had work to do and didn't get the show notes to me, so it was a long time between recording and posting, and then now it's so we posted two shows that didn't even address the issue, and now this is the first time we've recorded since the allegations came out.
I did include it in the notes. We didn't edit the episodes, but there were in the show notes it did make. But this is the first time, we're recording and we're talking about it. So not a huge deal. It's like, it's 5 minutes at most of the show in the beginning. But it was, it was a big part of the lore and mythology of Ditch Diggers, so we wanted to talk about it. So we've taken a wrong turn tunneling from the interstate to Jeff Goldblum's, and we've ended up in Jodie Foster's underground lair.
Yeah.
Where she's going to put us to work expanding her empire.
That's right. Unpaid work. How do you feel about unpaid work, Matt?
How do we feel about unpaid? We're not professional builders, so you'd have to call us interns. You'd have to call us unpaid interns.
You would.
And thus the segue is complete.
Yes.
As is me referencing it, which is tradition here. So we've done everything we're required to do. But via Ditch Diggers protocol. No, but that's this is not a new issue, Mur.
No.
Very few, and that's the thing, very few issues we talk about when it relates to freelance writing are actually new. They're usually just new flare-ups of outstanding issues that just don't ever seem to get fixed. And this is one of those things. Because a lot of people on Twitter this week, and I have to be honest, I'm not sure what started it this time, but a lot of people were talking about how unpaid internships are garbage. They're a wrong thing to do to people, and a lot of outrage about it. And of course, plenty of trolls popping up to be like, when I was a young whippersnapper, I walked 12 miles uphill both ways in the snow to be whipped with chains, and I was grateful, and you should be too. And which but you know what? I'm taking things to remember. How do you feel about unpaid internships, particularly in freelance writing related industries like publishing, where they are very prevalent?
I'm sorry, I got stuck on a very weird Twitter thread about internships. I know. I'm just gonna hang a lantern on the fact that I'm an asshole and ask you to rephrase that or repeat that.
Where do you stand on the issue of unpaid internships, particularly in publishing, where they are very prevalent?
I think it's unpaid labor. It's unfair. It's ridiculous. And the thing is that I don't think people think about. It's like, oh, we're giving you experience, and then you'll be able to say, I had an internship at this place that I probably wouldn't be able to get a job if I were trying to go for one of the paid jobs, blah, blah, blah. But what they're not addressing is the fact that if you're not already well off, unpaid internships are an impossibility. They are very clearly a classist kind of, an invisible classist wall of, oh, well, we'll hire anybody as long as you can manage to support yourself while you're working for us. So it's
And what I love about it is, particularly in publishing, this is what I've always enjoyed about the unpaid internship thing, is publishing is 99% centered in New York City.
Yep.
Like the most expensive place to live ever in the history of the world. That's not an actual statistic, but it is one of the most expensive places to live in America, which I think would rank it pretty high on the world scale. It is impossible to work a full-time unpaid internship in publishing in New York and actually live there unless you have like family money or a MacArthur Genius Grant or something. It's such an absurd construct, particularly within publishing for that reason, and it's just such a perfect metaphor for like the gatekeeping we talk about in this industry, because it's a completely classist construct. It comes from this time where predominantly like white male upper class well-off kids went to university that their parents paid for and then took unpaid internships while their parents paid all their bills, and then eventually they could become editors and whatever. So and I don't understand how anyone can argue against that as to me it's not a subjective thing. I don't know how it becomes a subjective argument, Murph. That's what really baffles me. Like, I go right past the issue, because to me the issue is very clear. It's like you're asking people to work full time and you're not paying them. You're a dick.
I know.
And then so I don't understand.
I've got an idea of how it happens. What distracted me is reading Alex Wells commenting on it. Alex Wells is a writer, award-winning writer. I believe he won the Kitschy this year. And
we share the same agent. Love Alex.
Oh yeah, and but he's also a geologist, and so he works he's a scientist, works in mining and all this stuff. And someone's talking about, oh, shockingly, if you want a really cool job, you might have to do it for free for a while. And Alex says, anyone who has ever worked in petroleum or mining would laugh you out of the fucking room. This is rank exploitative bullshit. And I think we go back to the fact that people believe that creative work should be free. I mean, it's the same. Interns are getting treated the same way as new writers, which is, you should give me your work, I will give you experience, and somebody down the road will pay you. I don't have to pay you. Somebody else will pay you some other time. I promise. And this happens in the place where in the creative world, where our work is considered to be free or for the love. It's the love. People love to put the love part in there because if you love doing it, then why should you worry about feeding yourself?
Yeah, which also gives a license to steal your work online. I'm sorry, share it for free, which is another show, but I think it's part of the same mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all feeds into that thing we talk about all the time, which is devaluing writing as a profession.
Right. So it doesn't happen to scientists. It doesn't even happen to blue-collar workers, does it? I mean, when you get to when you apprentice and stuff, you're still getting paid, right? I'm not sure.
You know, you absolutely do. I had my cousin was an electrician. He's recently got a job as a facilities manager for the city of Santa Monica, and it's very big and impressive. But before that, he was apprenticing to be an electrician. What was there was a really cool title. Like an inside wireman or something like that. Like that was the official title. I know, it sounded like, totally, right? It sounded like the member of like a cyberpunk heist team. It was really impressive.
Wow.
But no, even when he was apprenticing, he wasn't part of the union yet. He was making money. Now, he wasn't making as much money as he would later on when he had more experience and had been in the game a while. But nobody expected him to fucking work for free.
Yeah.
You know, nobody expects you to clean toilets for free, although, you know, they'll pay you shit for it, no pun intended. But yeah, that idea of it's such a wonky thing. The whole idea that creative work is not real work, or that you do it for the love, or that if you take money for it, you're not an artist anymore. It is very prevalent. I've seen some such ridiculous takes about that online, and it baffles me every time how people can go there in their minds. Even people who want to be writers or artists or whatever, there are people who buy that crap. You know, like you suffer in poverty. I do think another part of it though is just strictly like we tend to accept whatever we're used to, or whatever. Like if it's always been that way, there's always going to be this hardlining group that just accepts that that's the way it should be, no matter how shitty that way has always been. That baffles me. I don't know if that's strictly an American culture thing. I really don't, because I'm not as well traveled as I would like to be. The other parts of the world I've been in, though, I do think if nothing else, I think it's kind of elevated in America. But we just have this really amazing ability to just accept whatever shit pile we've been given if they started early enough with it. I think that's where the whole healthcare argument comes from. I'm convinced of that. Like, if we hadn't privatized it at the very beginning, no one would make the ridiculous arguments against like single parent that they do now. That's another show. But I feel like the internships are the same way. And I brought this up yesterday on Twitter when the whole conversation was going on, and I've talked about it on this show before, and I'll talk about it again. It really reminded me of that whole thing, that dust up with JoeBlow.com that I had a while back. I don't know if you remember that. But if you don't remember that, JoeBlow.com is a low rent soccer porn website. I'm sorry, a movie news website. It is, man. It's a garbage fire of a website and brand. But they put out this ad for a part-time editor. They wanted someone to work 20 hours a week, 4 hours a day, from the morning to the afternoon on their website, and they were going to pay them what they classified in the ad as beer money once every quarter for 20 hours a week, prime hours of the day. Which, I obviously found abhorrent, because that is a hardcore part-time job, and you're giving up prime hours of the day when most people would be working or going to school. Like, that is a serious commitment. And even to just be paid once quarterly for that is ridiculous. But to be paid, what they're classifying as beer money, which I'm sure is a pittance, was ridiculous. And I called them, I obviously called them out on it because that's the kind of loudmouth jackass I am. And they got to the founder of the site, and we never ended up arguing. He went on his own rant about it. But I read his rant, and it was just such, his whole argument was, when he was a news intern, he worked for free, and he had like 5 kids to feed, and he did it 19 hours a day or whatever it was. It wasn't that, but it was like, that was the vibe. It's like, I suffered and didn't make any money, and now I am where I am, so it's okay. And I'm like, dude, that's like if you got just beaten severely every day as a child, and now you beat your kid severely every day too, and you're like, no, it's cool. That's what happened to me when I was a kid.
People say that. You're not doing a hyperbolic metaphor. People say that.
Yeah, people absolutely do say that. And that's part of the same. It's part of the same mentality. But dude, you are literally perpetuating the same abusive, exploitive behavior that you suffered, that you should not have suffered when you were a young intern. It was wrong that they did that to you. And he just the guy does not get it. That attitude is so prevalent throughout the industries that we work in. It's that idea, well, this is the way it was, so it must be the way it's supposed to be.
Well, how do you one thing that people don't like is when somebody pays money, somebody doesn't have to pay for something they paid for. So, and I'm saying you can spread that across any sort of literal or metaphorical thing. So if I had to, this happens a lot with much older women addressing like the Me Too movement. They're like, look, I dealt with men feeling up my butt and telling me they wanted to cheat on their wives with me every day, and I made it, so I don't know what these women are complaining about. It's like, they're complaining about what you just said. Right. And it's not cool, and no one else should suffer because you suffered. It's sad that you suffered, but that doesn't mean other people should too. It's like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine actually addressed this in a very amusing way early on when the captain had created the African American Gay and Lesbian Policemen's Association.
Right.
Or AGLNICPA to shorten it.
Of course.
And he had been the president for like 20 years. And he's always very open about what the crap he's dealt with being an openly gay African-American cop. And he's a young man comes and says, I really love what you've done for this, but I've got some new ideas, so I'm going to be running against you for president. And the guy's like, come on, has he been through what I've been through? Has he fought what I fought? And his assistant's like, no. You moved things forward. You made things better so he didn't have to fight what you fought. And, she points out that, it's what you did, what you fought against actually moved the needle. And, what he's doing is benefiting from your work. And that's a good thing. You know, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the suffragettes would be happy that all the shit they went through and all they fought for has, achieved what women are achieving today. They may not be fully happy about the racial aspects of it, but nobody is perfectly pure. I never like to point out the women's movement unless I point out the fact that they were a white women's movement.
Yeah.
But anyway,
a fairly racist white women's movement.
They were.
I'm glad you pointed it out because I feel weird doing it. Not because I don't like pointing at women who were fighting for justice and be like, no, but they were racist as a guy. I feel like so I'm glad you as a woman did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, man, we're flawed creatures. But yeah, so those are the reasons that it happens, but it still just baffles me the lack of basic self-awareness. I don't know how you don't stop and go, that horrible thing I experienced. Maybe it's good that these people don't want to go through that. Maybe they shouldn't have to.
I think one of the things, and this is a real thing that I will, I admit that this is I'll stop talking now. I'm trying to say it better, and I just keep coming back to the same words. I think one of the problems people have is that once the fight is fought, the people who benefit from it don't appreciate the fight because they didn't have, you appreciate what you work really hard for. And if you get it handed to you, you don't appreciate it as much. It's just human nature. And so I think that's one of the legitimate complaints. I remember reading Watership Down to my daughter, and we were at the end, generations later, where they're telling the stories of all the adventures the rabbits went through, and the kids just don't care.
Right.
They're just like, yeah, I don't know. That's all. That doesn't really happen. That's I don't know what these old guys are talking about. And it's like, you get what you achieve the peace or the equality that you wanted, and you usually achieve it at a great price, but other people don't, because they didn't fight for it, don't fully understand, which is a real thing, but still not a reason other people should suffer.
No, but that is true. And also, I think a lot of people find those kind of truths inconvenient. They don't want to deal with, the implications of history like that, because it makes them feel bad in some way.
Yeah.
So they just reject it outright. I think we see a lot of that too. But yeah, I just don't. It's just one of those things that shouldn't even be an issue to me. It's one of those things we should have evolved beyond by now. But the reason we haven't is because it's twofold. The first is the people at the top don't want to kick out that money. They just don't. Like, they will be. And, I know lovely people in the publishing industry. I know amazing editors, and I know great publishers who are fair people. But the fact is, there are 5 corporations that control, like, most of the publishing on the planet, and they're massive. And those organizations, however many well-meaning people work for them, they will exploit people as much as you allow them to exploit people.
Oh,
it's just a basic truth. If they can get away with it, if no one is stopping them from doing it, or they're not suffering adverse effects from it, they will pay people nothing, and that includes interns. They will keep doing it. So you got those people at the top doing that. And the reason they're able to still get away with that bullshit is because you've got all these people at the bottom arguing against the people who are like, maybe we should pay people for their full-time work.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't have this giant wall to access the publishing industry that keeps out the lower 99% of the population. Maybe we shouldn't do that. You got all these people going, no, that's a good thing because reasons. And I don't know how to overcome that. I don't. It's just, I don't think screaming matches on Twitter are going to do it, but I don't know. But again, I don't know what will. You got to get people on the inside of the industry to change that. But then, you also have to get them past the unpaid internship wall. So it's
you know what I just realized? I was fired from an unpaid internship in college.
Wow.
Because I was doing it in not a non-confrontational way. I was doing it from a position of, fear and uncertainty. Basically saying, so you want me to, like, I lived in a dorm. So she wanted me to rent an apartment over the summer and work at her establishment for free. And it was a great job. I was really excited about it. But I'm just like, how am I going to do this? I was really worried about it. I'd never been on my own before. My dad was still paying for college and paying for me to be in the dorm. So the idea of finding a place to stay over the summer was terrifying to me. So I was approaching it from a position of fear. But I realized that I was just basically bringing all this up. How do you expect me to do this if you're not going to pay me? And she eventually, even before I started, she fired me. Because I was bringing all this up.
Yeah, and I'm sure the thing is, I'm sure she found someone who was willing to accept those circumstances.
Yeah.
To replace you. But that's like union busting on a micro level. That's how it's quashed in the womb. You brought up a very fair point, and she fired you because she didn't want to deal with it. Because you were right. It's ridiculous. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. It's just stunning to me. I do want to caveat, because I was just saying before, like, I don't really know, like, how to fix the problem, and then that got me thinking about the SFWA, because I was just reading yesterday. Kat Rambo is she's entering her last year as president of the SFWA. And here's the thing, and I said this on Twitter, and I'll say it here. I have always been hypercritical of the SFWA.
Yep.
And I will continue to be hypercritical of the SFWA when and where I feel it's merited. I respect the hell out of Kat. She has really tried, and she has made some significant changes, but she's really tried to make a lot of changes to the SFWA that should have been made years and years ago that she just kind of got stuck with. She's really tried to advance it as an organization. Mm-hmm. And, however all that shakes out when she leaves or who takes over or whether she accomplished it or not, I respect the effort and the awareness that she's. So, as critical as I can and will be of SFWA, I wanted to say that nothing but respect for Kat and what she's tried to do for the organization. And again, it's kind of dovetailing off that is the point I want to make, which is I really do think this should be an issue that our professional organizations, as authors and as the publishing people who don't have any representation, should be tackling. I really do. Because it represents and extends to the problem we have in publishing of marginalized voices not getting the attention from big publishers that they do, That being said, I really think that this issue of unpaid internships, particularly in publishing, particularly in Big Five publishing, is something that should be addressed by our professional organizations like SFWA. I'm not just putting it on SFWA because they're certainly not the only professional organization or guild for writers. But just as an example, they are one of the larger ones, and they are the main organization that represents science fiction and fantasy writers. Because the issue of unpaid internship isn't just a barrier to publishing for a lot of people. It feeds directly into that problem of marginalized authors not being able to find a home with big publishers. Because if you don't have diverse people entering publishing from the publisher side, you're not going to get diverse voices from the author side. Like the two, to me, are directly related. It's all part of the same gatekeeping, upper crust white problem. And that is something that we could be doing. I feel that like professional organizations that represent authors should be working for. And we talked a little about that before, but we talked about like working remote for publishers and how that needs to become more prevalent, especially with the technology where it is right now. Mm-hmm. But unpaid internships is the other side of the coin. So, and I don't know the specific way to go about doing that. It's hard because authors guilds like SFWA have so little stroke with publishers. It's just the truth. I don't know about how to go about accruing that power again. But that's always the issue with guilds, is that collective bargaining power and the lack of it that we have. But that is an avenue that I feel should be explored. So to whoever replaces Kat, I think that should be on your agenda. I just want to throw that out there.
I think
because I
think SFWA has more pull with the smaller magazine publishers.
And that's great, man. But that doesn't.
No, I'm just saying where the pull is.
Yeah. No, I absolutely hear you. They do good work in that milieu. Making sure that pay is fair and that contracts aren't taking advantage of authors. But that's a really small piece of the game, man. It's a really small piece of the industry. Like when you don't have a seat at the table with the publishers, or you can't talk to Amazon. What are you even really doing? You're doing what you can, and I know it's hard, but we need professional organizations that have bargaining power with the main industry. That has to be a thing. It's a hard thing, but if you're going to run a guild, that has to be on your agenda to at least try, man. I'm just putting that out there because I know that every prospective SFWA president listens to our podcast religiously, so I wanted to make sure that I put that in.
Yeah, totally.
But I really do feel that's valid. I just wanted, for whatever that's worth, I just wanted to put that out there. I should probably run for SFW president.
I think you would find out that the business aspect does not appeal to you.
No, I probably wouldn't. And I'd have to join the SFWA. Which
probably.
They probably wouldn't let me be president if I remember.
Yeah, what I don't get is what I discovered in paying more attention to SFWA and the subsequent presidents is that you go in with these ideas, but it's not it's a big bureaucratic boulder, and any change that you want to make is going to be so much pushing work that it almost feels, it feels worth it, but it's going to be a lot more work than you anticipate.
No, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's like being president of anything. I'm sure that's absolutely true. I'm sure it's an arduous, really difficult job. I'm in no way taking that for granted. But at the end of the day, if you were going to say, okay, I am going to be the one who runs the professional organization for science fiction authors in America, you're taking on that responsibility. And I don't. And the point at the end of the day, looking at the, I don't care how hard it is. Like, if you don't want to do the job, don't do the job. But if you're going to be if you're going to be that, if you're going to put yourself out there at that and collect dues and be like, we're the ones you come to, we are the guild, then you're taking on that responsibility. And I don't care how hard it is, you got to work towards it. And I don't feel it's an unfair position to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit of a digression, a little bit of a tangent, but I really do feel that ties back into what we're talking about here, because the push has got to come from somewhere. It can't just be a bunch of authors yelling about it on Twitter. And these are the only structures we have. So unless somebody's going to create a new structure to talk to these people on their level, or seek collective and bargaining power at the table, then it's got to be one of these existing organizations that we have. So
yeah,
that's just my feeling about it. But anyway, this also leads into. Did you have anything else you want to say on that? I don't want to seem all over you, Mark.
No, I don't think so. We can go on to the next topic.
Yeah, well, I feel like this relates. I feel like it's all part of the same. Yeah, it does. And so I want to tell a very quick story. This happened to me last week. I'm not going to, and in this, you'll see how it kind of feeds into everything we're talking about today. And I'm not going to name any names here because, for one, this isn't about like calling anybody specifically out. This is more about the industry and about being a writer within it. And also because the person who told me the story has not given me permission to say their name, and I would never do that to somebody. But anyway, an author I know contacted me last week, and because they know I have done screenwriting and worked in the entertainment industry, they wanted to ask my opinion about something. And I'm always happy to lend whatever limited knowledge or advice I can to authors dealing with the entertainment industry, because it's very hard to transition and deal with that. So this author had written, I believe, a fairly well received military SF novel that was very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it had sold fairly well. They indicated there wasn't a lot going on with it, right now. Like, it wasn't burning at the charts. There wasn't a ton of interest in it from other quarters. And an agent had come to this author and said, I have a client who's a screenwriter who really likes your book. And the screenwriter client of mine would like to take a shot at adapting it into a pilot for a television series.
That's exciting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is. The screenwriter didn't have. There were no resources at play other than a hungry screenwriter who wanted to write a script.
Oh, sure, but I'm saying that whenever somebody tells you that, it's exciting. That's how it is for authors. It's exciting to hear that.
It absolutely is. It's validating. It feels good, and it's it's like warm soup in your tummy. But at the same time, you also have to keep it in perspective and realize it doesn't mean much professionally 99% of the time. And it's important to tamper your excitement and expectations when things like this occur. At the end of the day, it was an agent with an unknown screenwriter client who wanted to write a spec script, and there wasn't going to be any money for anybody. They didn't put any kind of agreement down on paper, which I will, and just to digress, because this isn't even the main part of the story, this is not a situation I recommend getting into, and that's something I would do. If someone comes to me and wants to adapt my work, I want, at the very least, to have some kind of agreement in place before anybody interested in anything.
Sure.
Because, and I'll explain why in a minute. So, but the point is, the author in question was like, not a lot was happening with the book. This seemed like something to do to try to kickstart it. So they agreed to just verbally, to let the screenwriter take a crack at adapting the script. So, and he said it'd take him a couple of months to do it. And then, of course, it took 5 times as long as he said it would to do it. So the screenwriter goes off. They come back with the script. And the author hates the script. It bears no resemblance to their book, and they just feel it's totally the wrong direction, and they don't like it. And so the advice part is they were asking me, what do I do now? Do I let them go ahead with it and see if they can do anything with it? Do I tell them, I don't like it and I don't want to pursue it any further? And to me, it seemed pretty clear cut. I'm just telling them, look, it's like, if you don't have an agreement, it's your IP. You are completely in control. You can tell him, and you can tell this agent, this writer, I don't like this. I appreciate your effort, but I don't want to pursue it any further. The only thing is, you opened up yourself to that kind of nebulous place where it's sort of like you read fan fiction, And I told the author, the only place you're vulnerable now is like if you go out and do a pilot for a series, And if this if this writer sees any of what they did in that future pilot that someone else does, or if they just want to be a wanker, frankly, they can sue you and say you've taken their ideas because you read their script. So that's something you open yourself up to. 99 times out of 100, that's not going to be like a huge deal, that kind of situation, but it's something you have to be aware of. And it's another reason why I wouldn't have entered into this without a written agreement with set parameters.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the only downside I saw in the situation. And on top of that, I told, just tell the guy I don't like it. And she, the author, elaborated on the situation a little bit at this point and went, well, we've also gotten some interest from some other producers lately about the novel, including one producer with a pretty great track record. And this agent who represents the screenwriter is also my film agent. At which point I was like, whoa, like, put on the brakes here. What? Yeah. Like, this was information that had not been given to me at the outset of this conversation. The agent who represents the screenwriter who did this adaptation is also the author's film agent.
Yeah.
And works with that author's literary agency to represent their book clients in the entertainment field. And that just, like, that blew my mind. And I was like, we need to, you're focusing on the wrong part of the thing. We need to address this, like, right now. Because to me, that presented just a huge a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Let's go into why. Let's explain exactly why that's a conflict of interest. Because I remember before I understood fully what conflicts of interest in business were, I would hear that and go, oh yes, conflict of interest, and then go, I don't really know what they're talking about. So why specifically is the agent in a conflict of interest with the screenwriter and the author being same client, or still being a client of the same agent?
Well, I mean, in the abstract, it's not until you start mixing and matching these things. This agent has the screenwriter whose work that, in this situation in particular, they're now prioritizing over the author who they also represent. Like, if the author has legitimate interest from these other sources, and in this specific case, the author's got this interest from other producers, but they don't want this screenwriter involved or their script, and the agent is going, well, no, I want my guy, and I want my guy's script to be front and center, so I'm not going to deal with you people. Yeah. Then he's screwing over the author. Like, he's rejecting offers that could make this author money because he wants to prioritize the screenwriter and the script they wrote. Like, right. And that was the situation that emerged from this conversation. Is that what was happening, and that's what this author was concerned about. And I immediately told her, it's like, dude, that is not acceptable. Like, if this agent is dodging legitimate interest from other sources and prioritizing the screenwriter, that's a fireable offense. Like, that is a serious, unacceptable conflict of interest. And the nuttiest thing about this conversation to me, and this is not a knock on the author I was talking to, by the way. This is a very common thing. And again, I said at the outset, it's very difficult for authors dealing with the entertainment industry and dealing with these because it's so foreign to most of us.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know. Like, she just didn't know. It's a new situation, a new set of ground. Well, she didn't have the experience with it. But, like, the shocking thing to me was how that wasn't the focus from the beginning for her. She was more concerned about letting this writer down gently and not burning a bridge with this agent. Yeah. Instead of getting on the horn of her agent and being like, dude, your guy is fucking me over. Like, what's happening with this? So that was the mind-blowing thing to me. And it was not a hard thing to explain. Like, once I put it in perspective, she said her husband had said he thought the same thing. So it was like they were already talking about it. And it just kind of helped her to hear an outside source confirm it. So it wasn't like she wasn't there. But she wasn't like, I would be enraged.
Yeah.
Having had the experience that I had. I would have been storming the guy's office to have a conversation with him. But this kind of shit happens all the time. And it happens to authors who don't realize that, you are supposed to be the one in power in this situation. This is all stemming from your work. This is supposed to be about you and your book. And
they work for you.
And they work for you. These are your employees, And in this context, and here's the thing, I didn't explore this. This is another thing I want to talk about, too. The way the author framed this, she literally said, this is my film agent. So that is a specific situation that is a commitment from someone saying, when it's the whole him actually being her agent part. That is a commitment from an agent to represent an author in their work to the best of their ability. That's why it's such a huge conflict of interest. The other side of the coin is a lot of times you'll sign with an agent from a big agency, and that agency will partner with some kind of entity from the entertainment world. Like my agent partners with a management group out here in LA that's run by a very prominent figure in the film industry, and they do a lot of projects, but they partner with that management firm. Presumably to pipeline books and works to them to turn into film projects. Right. Every agency does some form of this. Now, that's great. Now, in the abstract, that's great because it gives me an avenue towards selling film and television rights for my work, right?
Yes.
It gives me a built-in pipeline. The problem is that does not mean that anybody at that firm actually represents me or my work. There's nothing built into the agreement that says these people are going to take my book and go out and try to sell it. It's just a resource that is there that could be tapped if, like, all the stars align and someone from there likes my project or my project gets interest, and then we have somebody to negotiate it. And that's a different situation than having someone who is specifically representing you.
Yeah.
Stop me if you have anything to put in your room, but I apologize.
No, I think you're on a roll, man. It's the confusing thing for me sometimes is because you can't just step into Hollywood as a writer. You can't just step into Hollywood and go, I would like a film agent, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the fact that I have my agency, my book agency works just like yours, works with a specific film agency. And for the record, I've loved every, meeting I've had with this guy, really enjoying the experience. But I'm saying, if I didn't, what recourse would I have? I'm not actually sure. And I haven't asked my agent this because I don't need to right now because I'm happy the way things are. But I have thought, if I'm not happy with the film agent, and this is the film agent that the book agent works with, what are my choices? What am I allowed to do here?
No, that's an excellent question. It's kind of that's exactly kind of what I wanted to get into because I've been down this road because I've been with this agency for a few, and I love my agency and I love all the people that I work with, and I'm not saying that, but the problem is, this is going to sound harsh, but I'm just going to say it because it's true.
You really are going to say, preface something with this is going to sound harsh? You?
Well, I'm delving into people ancillarily. I'm delving into people I work with, and I just want to put it in context.
Okay.
When you get into producers and representation, especially for writers in Hollywood, generally the majority of these people are very lazy. It's just the truth. Occasionally you'll get a manager, you'll get an agent, you'll get a producer who's very passionate about a script and about a writer and will work to get that shit off the ground. But most of the time, most of these people, agents and managers and producers, don't want to work to build something from the ground up. Mm-hmm. When you get into representation in particular, and you get into people dealing with books and scripts, they want something that's already hot or that already has interest behind it, something that they can make a deal on. They don't want material and they don't want to read it and go, this is really good. I will turn this into something. I will turn nothing into something. That's not something most of them are interested in doing. Just in my experience, and I've been in this town 8 years, and I've been chasing this continuously, and I've dealt with a lot of people and a lot of scripts and a lot of different producers and agents and managers, and from my own experience, that is a wall that I've hit multiple times, which is just, is someone interested in it? No, then I'm not interested in it. You have to already have something to bring them other than a manuscript or a script. You have to have interest from some quarter. Now, if you have that interest, and you have people who want your book, then they're all about it. They're all about, let's set meetings. Let's make a strategy. Let me email and call some people. And that's great. But if that interest wanes, then their interest wanes as well. And they're not 9 times out of 10, they're not going out there to generate anymore. They're looking for a deal that is ready for them to make. And that is a reality that you are going to have to deal with in this business, which is, and it's, and I really say that because it can be a jarring thing that it takes a long time to understand, because you think if you write something that is good enough and people like it, that is the only thing you need to do to get people behind it, to get them to go out and sell it. And that's just so often not the case at all. It's just not. It's not enough. You've got to have something that generates some buzz and some interest and makes it look sexy to someone who can go out there and close a deal for you.
Yeah.
And that is an issue that you can run into with these ancillary people who work with your agency but not necessarily for you. Now, what can you do about that is the question. And I'll be perfectly honest, this is actually the one time in 3 years, going on 3 years, with my agent, who I love deeply, love this guy, consider him a dear friend. It's the one time I've actually had static with him, was over this issue, because I didn't feel that the management company was doing enough or taking enough interest with the film side of what I was doing with my work. And what we basically arrived at was this, which is, if it's a book that I have written that my agent is representing, I need to give the management company the option on it first to do something with it, to take interest and go out and do something with it. I need to start there. And it's smart to start there, because you should start with the resources at your disposal, and that is a good resource. However, if they choose to sit on it, or it doesn't grab the manager that reads it, or they're not going to do something with it, then I am free to explore other avenues with it. Now, if I have anything that is not a book that he is representing, then I'm free to do whatever the hell I want with it. Nobody has first dibs. So
when you say you're free to do whatever you want to with it, does this mean that your agent he won't be serving as a bridge to another agency, or you are on your own here?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. Yeah, if I have avenues that I want to explore, and I'm in a situation that not a lot of authors, and I'm not any kind of industry mogul over here. I've worked on one entertainment television show, and I've written a bunch of scripts that were produced.
But you are over there. This is one thing where location is important.
Yeah,
you're in
exactly.
LA area.
And that's something you understand. I am in LA, actively working or trying to work in the entertainment industry, and I know people. I'm people who know people, but I know people that I can go to and be like, I have this new thing. What do you think about it? So I have that option available to me. Not a lot of authors do.
Right.
But that's the situation that I'm in. And that's why it was important for me to establish those ground rules with my agent, and what is acceptable and what's not going to put him in an awkward, because I don't want to put him in an awkward position with the people that he works with. And I don't want to have a contentious relationship with anybody. You just need to establish what the structure is and what's best for you and your work. And that is the structure that is best for me and my work with the situation that I am in. If I don't have someone who is enthusiastic and active and representing a work that I want to get out there to market, then I need the option to go out there and do it myself. And so that's what we arrived at. And this is also, again, day one stuff. This is also a place to know what your contract is and make sure no one has dibs or exclusive rights on your stuff if that's not something you want them to have. That's not a problem. That was not a problem with my agency, because my contract with them is very fair and very and favors me very heavily. But that's that situation. That's a different situation than the one with this author I was talking about, where they have an agent who specifically is supposed to be representing them in their script, as opposed to working with a literary agent whose agency partners with an entity in the entertainment industry that you can utilize as a resource, but that does not actually represent you. And those are two very different situations, and I wanted to explain the difference between them because they're very important for authors to understand.
It's funny. I think the biggest way to deal with something like this is to ask a lot of questions and not be afraid of it. And going back to our previous conversation, I realized that I am afraid of asking questions because as I said, I got fired for asking questions, and I think that burned me and made me afraid of, okay, you're offering me something tentative, and I want it, and if I ask a question about it, you're going to take it away from me, aren't you? Like that terrible woman back in '92, and
back in '92.
Yeah, I know, I'm old.
I was cognizant. '92. I just love that phrase. Back in the day, the '90s.
Yeah, well, you should think that since it was 92, I would move past it and move on. But it's one of those things where it's an early job experience that burned me badly. And I'm just like, well, now what do I expect? So I'm afraid to ask questions a lot. And what's funny is sometimes I don't have questions, and I was in a meeting where they're like, okay, we want to answer any questions you've got, and I'm like, I'll try to think of one. I felt like Dwight Schrute. I will try to think of a question. Well, don't try to think of one if you don't have one. But often, if you do have questions, you do have uneasy feelings, bring it up. If your agent's a good agent, they're going to want to hear it and going to want to put your mind at ease. Or if they're not putting your mind at ease and confirming all of your fears, if they're a good agent, they're going to want to help you move past that and find a solution that will help. So, I think because even though they work for us, they still have a lot of the power simply because of supply and demand. We think that we can't push our agents, and ask them questions and stuff, but we absolutely should.
No, we should. And the thing is, you get, like, assertiveness and just knowing your worth goes a long way. You can get a lot more accomplished with that than you think you can. There absolutely is a real aspect to how much leverage do I actually have in this relationship. If you're with a big agent who has a lot of clients, that has that, classic upside downside. They have a lot of stroke, and they have a lot of ability to help you, but they also have a lot of people ahead of you in line. And that's a tough position to get into. I don't particularly recommend it. I feel like you really should work to find an agent who wants to work with you and is going to give you equal time. But just asserting, I don't want to say like assert your authority or whatever, but just asserting your equal footing in the relationship at the very least, and being like, look, this is a partnership between us. I'm not your employee. I expect this, and this from this relationship, and I expect you to do this and this. And doing that early, I think, is very important. Setting that in the dynamic of the relationship early on. It goes a long way. Even if you don't have a lot of professional leverage, even if you're very new and you're not making them a lot of money, like, just that assertiveness and that owning that can go a long way into getting you results, I think. But man, that hardwiring is very, and like you said, the earlier it happens, the harder that hardwiring is to overcome. I definitely had some of that a long time ago, but I don't, and I also have that. I'm a 6'4", able-bodied, straight white man, so I have that. I don't have to be as afraid as other people, and I'm aware of that. But a lot of it has also been just understanding there's nothing these people can do to you, because that's really what the thing is. You go through a lot of these things afraid you're going to piss somebody off,
mm-hmm.
and that you're going to suffer because of it. And you shouldn't go around being a dick to everybody and yelling and looking for fights.
Yeah.
But you should not be afraid to assert yourself and ask questions and demand answers in a reasonable way. Because they can't stop you from writing. And there's always going to be more opportunities as long as you keep writing and keep producing. That's something important to remember. And you should always have questions. Because no one explains things that well to an author, especially in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
They take a very head-patting attitude with authors. They will tell you very tentatively what's happening. My question is the things I want to know when I'm in a meeting like that, or we're talking about this kind of thing, is I want to know what the plan is step by step, and then I want to know what the plan is when that plan doesn't work. Like, those are the things I start with. Because whatever plan they have in the beginning for you, and how they're going to market your work, and how they're going to sell it, and how they're going to turn it into this or that, 99% of the time, that's not going to pan out. So I want to know what the plan is after that. And if they don't have a plan after that, then that's something you need to be aware of going in. And then, you can get into deal points and money and all that stuff after it. But that's generally what I start with when talking to these kind of people. And that says a lot about them, too. That'll tell you a lot about the people you work with, what their plan of action is to make something happen with your work. So I'll offer that for whatever it's worth. But I totally agree with Mur. You can't be afraid to ask questions. Questions are your friend.
Yes.
So all of this basically is just about knowing your worth as an author, and we're using these specific examples for context. Although these are all important lessons in and of themselves, especially working with agents and working with ancillary entertainment representation. And I hope that was educational. But I feel like we should get to questions, Mur, because we're coming up on where time is rapidly draining here as we tunnel from the interstate into Jodie Foster's hidden lair.
Yes. Maybe she can tell us where Jeff Goldblum's lair is.
I'm sure they hang out all the time.
Yeah. I do want to bring up one thing while you look for Twitter questions.
Please do.
I don't normally talk about the same thing on Ditch Diggers as I should be writing, but this actually just came up in my mind, and it has to do with your worth. I had an epiphany the other day, and it sounds really stupid, but it is another step toward realizing my self-worth, which is how people say that keeping your email as like a to-do list is a terrible idea because it's a world writable to-do list. Anybody can send you email and say, hey, deal with me. And I always thought, wow, if someone sends me an email, then I'm going to remember that I need to deal with them, and it's a great idea. And I just realized that I've been having this feeling of I feel confident and happy and get the little dopamine hit when I answer email and I winnow it down and I hit that inbox 0, and then I look at what I think my work is and where it takes my career and realizes email's place in all of that, and it has almost none. And so it's like it's like I realized email is basically empty calories, because you do it and you feel like you're getting stuff done and you feel like you're getting accomplished, but are you writing? Are you podcasting? Are you talking to an agent? Maybe during email, but I doubt all of those emails in my inbox right now are that. And it's my own self-worth in realizing that my priorities are more important than other people's demands on my time and email. And that was a big epiphany for me, and it sounds really stupid but I finally am trying to value my needs and my priorities over everyone else's if I want my career to go somewhere.
No, that's not stupid at all. I think I talked a little bit about this did I talk about it on this show or talk about it with someone else? I was listening to an interview with Damon Johns, who wrote a book on productivity, and he said he talked to all these really hyper successful people, and one of the lessons he got off it was the most successful people he knows, they get up in the morning and they send all of their emails first before they answer anyone. They always prioritize what they need to get done first before they even consider addressing anyone else's concerns. So it totally feeds into what you're saying, is that you prioritize yourself first. So that's not stupid at all. It's a tip from a very successful person, Mark, who's talked to other successful people who agree with you.
Okay.
So there you go. But no, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a very valuable lesson for us all. So I'm going to Twitter for questions, Mar.
Okay, go for it.
We have questions, which is always nice when I go to Twitter for questions and there are questions there, because otherwise it looks like no one cares.
Yes.
So Craig asks, I started writing my first book and am curious how far along the process of completion should I begin agent searching, or is that the incorrect first step? That is a good question and an important question. I think it's a fairly easy one to answer, but I think a lot of aspiring authors wonder this kind of thing.
Yes. I think a lot of authors want to, I appreciate all the aspiring authors who listen to Ditch Diggers, but I think a lot of them want to think about the business aspects of their career before they finish a book.
Yeah, it's a cart before the horse situation, Craig. Book first. That's your only job right now. Your job is to write a book and make it as good as you can. Don't think about the business until the book is done. Is that fair, Mur?
That's it. Because you can't find an agent to help your career if you don't have a career, and you're not going to have a career without a book.
Yeah, and the thing is, man, you can't. It's also detrimental to have all that in your head when you're writing. You just gotta focus on writing the book you want to write and making it as good as possible. That's the only thing that's going to get you through. And it's hard. You know what I mean? It's difficult. If you're on the social media, you're on the Twitters, you're going to the cons, you're inundated with all these professional authors who, from your perspective, are doing these big, wondrous things that you want to be doing, and you're chomping at the bit to get into the game. I get that. I've been there. Totally been there. But you got to produce the work, man. That is the only salient lesson I've learned in 12 years of doing this, which is the more I produce and complete, the better my career is. That's what it comes down to, flat out. You know, write the thing, and then all the other stuff will happen based off of that. So yeah, put all that crap out of your mind and just write the hell out of that book. Good enough?
Yeah, good enough. Let's go.
Cool. So Alex Camachi, which is an awesome name, asks, is having business cards a silly thing for aspiring writers to bring to cons?
No.
Absolutely not. You're there to network. And, we love the Moo cards. Moo cards, right, Mur?
Yeah, Moo cards. We love the Moo cards. Moo cards,
yeah.
Moo cards.
We have Moo cards. We have Ditch Digger. I have them in my wallet right now, actually. I have Moo cards for Ditch Diggers in my wallet that Mur made and sent to me because she's amazing. And, they're little tiny. The reason we like the Moo cards is because they're even more portable than regular business cards.
Yes.
And they're fairly cheap to produce.
Yes.
So no, Alex, you should absolutely, have the card with your website on it. Make sure your website or your blog or whatever you have or your social media, make sure it's all reflective of your writing. You should have writing samples up on there. It should all feed into one another. But yeah, that's how you get people to know about it. It's not a silly thing. Get yourself some Moo cards, go to the con, pass them out with confidence.
I actually have been thinking, and this is where my self-worth is actually too high and too much of an ego, but because I have a unique name and I go to a lot of cons, I sort of assume that people, if they don't know who I am, they can probably figure out how to get in touch with me, and I stopped carrying cards because I felt like they were just, not a lot of people are asking for them. But now whenever anybody asks for them, I feel like a complete jerk because I don't have any. And so I definitely believe you should have cards, and I need to remember to start carrying mine again, too.
Yeah. I stopped doing it just because I really don't. I stopped going to cons for a long time. Even now, I don't go to that many to begin with. So I tend to do most of my networking on Twitter these days, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of return off of that. But if you're going to cons and you're new, definitely rock the Moo cards. We recommend it.
Yeah, and we're not even sponsored by Moo. This is just us saying what we like.
Should be. Moo could reach out. They had Max Gladstone write that thing for them. We could do something like that.
Okay. I think we might need to reach out to them. I don't know how many Moo people listen.
I just assume everybody listens, Moo. I go from there.
Okay.
So those are our salient. I'm using the word salient a lot. Those are only salient Twitter questions for right now. And I think they were a couple of good ones, and I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode, Mark.
Yeah, let me see if we got any email questions though.
Oh yes, I forgot email is a thing that exists.
Yeah.
It's not all about the Twitters, people. Jodie Foster.
We got a couple.
Do we want to do them now, or do we want to save them?
We can save them.
Why don't we save them?
We'll save them.
We record very early in the morning. We don't always get questions. I'll just be honest about that.
Yeah.
So why don't we? So if we didn't get to your question this time, rest assured, we will.
We will, definitely.
None should be spared.
Shill your stuff, Matt. I believe I hear Jodie Foster tunneling toward us because she does not wait for someone to tunnel to her. She'll meet you halfway.
That woman burrows like a fucking mole. It's amazing. Right. Just little tiny hands just pushing dirt behind her. Who knows? I went and saw Hotel Artemis recently. She was really good in it. I will say that all day. Shill. I write books, Mur.
Cool.
It's a thing that I do. I just this year completed my 7-book novella series in jour. In April, the final book, Taste of Wrath, came out. And that's out there right now. So if you were looking for something to binge read, if you're a binger, if you're a healthy binger who binges on entertainment, you could go right now. You get all 7 books very cheaply. They bundled the first 3 for Kindle for a great price. You can get all of them, and you can binge read the whole Cindy Jour series, and it's awesome. It's got chefs and New York restaurants and high-end food and magic and monsters and pop culture references, all the things that we like in urban fantasy.
And it's awesome, and I'm not just saying that as with Matt being one of my best friends. It is awesome.
I appreciate that. I'm actually very proud of it. The finale, everyone who tweets about the finale, literally everyone who's tweeted about the finale has tweeted about how it made them cry. So I like making people cry. I like making people laugh. I also like making people cry. So yeah, the first book is Envy of Angels. Please go pick them all up right now and read them. Because that helps me keep the lights on around here. Red Core, Life in Grudge City, my Lucha Buddy Cop novella, is also out there. You can go on Amazon, get that in paperback or a Kindle ebook. That's from Parts Unknown Publishing. It's a good time if you're a wrestling fan or a Lucha Libre fan, or if you just like a good comedy, action, fantasy buddy cop yarn. That's good stuff. You can find me on the Twitters at MattFNWallace, and you can find my blog and website at matt-wallace.com. I also do a weekly vlog that is returning next week after a hiatus. It's on YouTube. The channel is called Angry Writer. Please go subscribe to that. I am trying to make it my main portal so I don't have to do as many other ancillary things, because Twitter is wearing on me too, Mur, as it is on all these days. And I believe that is all of my things. We're going to be at Worldcon, Mur. Did you know that?
We are. I did. I'm excited. I'm super excited about Worldcon.
I am only going to be there Saturday and Sunday, but I'm going to pack a lot into those 2 days. And we are nominated for a Hugo again. So,
we are. If you're a Hugo voter and you're listening, then clearly you already like us. So why don't you just go ahead and, vote now while you're thinking about it?
That's what I'd do. I'd pause this, and I'd go vote for us, for Ditch Diggers, for Best Fan Cast. Because, rocket trophies are cool. Yeah. So, yeah, those are all my things. Mur, what are your things? You wrote some kind of clone murder mystery deli in space there?
That's right. I wrote a deli mystery in space with clones. Okay, no, I can't be clever because we don't know who's listening to us for the first time.
It's not a deli in space.
No, it's a clone murder mystery in space. It is up. It's called 6 Weeks. It is up for the Hugo for Best Novel. It has already lost many fancy awards, including, thank you. My daughter's cheering for me in the background.
Okay, that was hilarious.
Yes, including the Philip K. Dick Award and the Nebula Award. And it is a fun book. I'm proud of it. What?
You say that so casually. I would be yelling from the rooftops, man. You're just so casual and cool about it. I respect that.
It's still baffling to say these words out loud. Other words that are baffling to say out loud are, my new book is called Solo, and it is not piggybacking on a movie that did not do terribly well, but still was awesome.
Not do terribly well, dude. That is such crap. It's made
hundreds of millions of dollars
around the world. I'm not going to get into it. It's not the forum. I'm not going to get into it. Anyone who tells you Solo was a commercial failure is full of shit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know.
It's
ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
The funniest thing is everyone talks about how they liked it, but people are just talking about the returns and how
our values and our perspective. Again, I'm not getting into it, but our values and our perspectives are fucked. I'm just going to say that. But you wrote the novelizations.
I wrote the novelizations for Solo.
You wrote the novelization of fucking Solo, man. Yeah. You did that.
Yeah, and it was an awesome project, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of what I was able to bring to the story. And that will be out September 4th, but you can pre-order now.
You should. You should pre-order so they hire Mur to write lots more Star Wars stuff.
And if you like writing advice, I have a book called I Should Be Writing, which is a writing workshop in a book and has writing prompts, writing advice, all sorts of stuff. And I am the co-editor of Escape Pod if you like free science fiction in your ears every week. And you can find all about me at murverse.com, and I'm on the Twitters occasionally at Mighty Mur. And you can email me at mightymur@gmail.com.
Mur, if I were you, I'd have a t-shirt that just says, I am canon.
I am canon. Oh, I would love that.
You should get that.
Oh.
That should be like a thing they issue to Star Wars authors.
That's true. And I want a picture of either L3 or Enfys Nest.
I like it.
I am canon. Yeah, I'm wearing my Enfys Nest t-shirt today.
I was going to say, how awesome is Enfys? Don't tell me that Solo wasn't a success. That's just crazy talk.
Enfys Nest was awesome. I love her so much.
And Warwick Davis.
Yep.
Like, come on, man. Whatever. Yep. It's fine. But congratulations on the...
Did anybody notice? Probably not, because, remembering the prequels is not something a lot of people do, but this is the same character as he played in The Force Awakens. The episode 1, whatever one that was.
I did not notice, but I read it after the fact. I will copy that. I didn't pick up on it immediately, but then I was like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really cool.
I thought, yeah.
So yeah, that's me and what I do, and we do this show, and I do another show called I Should Be Writing, and that's probably enough for now.
Okay. Yes, we should probably end it. Let's end the show, Mur.
We will end the show. I'll see you next time, Matt, and next time we'll be doing a 20-minute ditch, so we'll see you then.
Woo!
You can support us at patreon.com/mightymur.
Ditch Diggers!
Theme song by Devo Spice, devospice.com.